Welcome back, everyone. It is our Super Bowl post-game show. It's the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast, and I am here with my guy, Mr. Mike Zappi. And I believe he has his son Landon with him, who may be chiming in as well. Unbelievable turn of events in the Super Bowl this evening. I got to say, it's been a common theme where I feel that the team that outplays the other team that wins, the team outplaying your opponent has not been enough to get it done, so to speak. We spoke about it heavily a few minutes ago in our group chat, and I think I speak for you, Zappy, as well as most of our guys. Shed, who I understandably so probably will not be joining tonight. Idris, I think, is about to go to bed. Brett's having trouble finding a charging port. But,
hey, I will say, as a Cowboys fan, everyone always wants to give Cowboys fans the drought. The drought. Oh, it's been how long? Since 96, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's been 1 year longer for the Niners. Plus, they've had three opportunities to get the Lombardi, be the first team in the NFC to get 6 Lombardis, and we have seen them 3 times fail. One of them, it took shutting off the lights for them to get back into the ball game. Another one, they were up by 10, and yet again, they were up by 10 points. This is a game, what do we say? What did I say? That Kyle Shanahan, the monkey has to come off your back. And yet again, he failed his team. But the one play I'm going to go to in regards to this game, one specific play, is the extra point by Jake Moody that was blocked. Because if he doesn't block that, we're talking about the Chiefs needing to get a touchdown on that final drive rather than a simple field goal to tie the game.
And I'm going to piggyback with your point about a kicking play, a special teams play, and I'm going to add one to that. Harrison Butker's field goal earlier in the game was very close to being swatted down, and it went literally through the hands of 2 different 49er players.
Randy Gregory was right there. I mean, it was right there, and just he couldn't do it.
Yeah, very close to blocking that. And, I got to be honest with you. I think it was 3rd and 6 on that final drive of the fourth quarter, which led the Chiefs to tie it and force an overtime period. I was really taken back with Kyle's defensive strategy, kind of overriding Coach Wilkes on a couple that I don't necessarily feel were the best for the team. You gotta play the sticks when you are 2 plays away from ending a game that ultimately is you guys are about to be the Super Bowl champs. They fall for the running play. Mahomes is going to call his own number. It's going to be number 15.
Absolutely. And, I mean, they should have known. And this is actually a shot towards Nick Bosa. When you see Mahomes
What's in this one?
Hey, I'll tell you what's in this one right here. This is my Woodford Reserve Double Oaks, my favorite bourbon out there. But, going back to that one specific play, Nick Bosa should have known that if he's in shotgun formation, it's going to be a read option. And I have never seen a defensive end bite so hard on a fake. And Mahomes, I mean, he had everything. Hey, one quick thing, got to send a shout out. One thing I was telling my son right here, Landon, was that it's a special opportunity to, obviously it's not the Cowboys, it's not your Giants, but to witness a team become a dynasty. It's a rarity in the NFL, and he got to witness his first one. But hey, Landon, what do you think?
What's up, Landon?
Hi. I don't know.
Hey, it wasn't us celebrating the Rangers World Series victory, but we were celebrating because, believe me, all the crap I had to hear from every Niners fan I know as soon as we got knocked out. I mean, all throughout the year, ever since the shellacking they gave us. But yet again, nothing.
Yeah, you were the only one who was correct on our panel. Shed, myself, and Bretsky all did think the Niners were going to find a way to win this. But I gotta say, man, to me it seems like now it's a question about Kyle Shanahan because you back it up to the Super Bowl previously, you know, you back it up to the Atlanta situation, and it just is like, I personally feel that on the biggest stages, Kyle Shanahan gets out coached, and
it's so unfortunate because, quite frankly, this has probably been one of the better Super Bowls of our lifetime. And Brock Purdy, while he was under duress a few times, he made some great throws.
I'll be honest.
Great game.
When Purdy extended the play and hooked up with Usek, I really believed at that point that the 49ers, that was the play that was going to elevate them, because I kept saying it watching that final quarter. If the Niners get a touchdown lead, they will win the game. I kept feeling that. I kept saying that. And I don't know. I really just don't know what else to say. I mean, is my heart bleeding for them? Not really. I mean, you're talking about a Detroit Lions team whose coach, you want to talk about giving it away. We know how that happened.
Absolutely. And I would say that last drive, the drive with the Kyle Juszczyk play, that drive, I looked at Landon. I was like, they're scoring too fast. I was like, they need to slow it down and continue to run the clock. Then we saw what happened on third down, where now there's a minute 57 left. Coming out of the 2-minute warning, you gave Patrick Mahomes a lifetime. Like Al Pacino said in The Longest Yard, we're a lifetime away, and that's exactly what it was. And then you got to give it to Travis Kelce, held to one reception for 1 yard in the first half and just exploded in the second half for 91 more yards. I mean, great job. But to watch Kelce get in the face of Andy Reid, not a similar situation to when A.J. Brown was getting into the face of his head coach, completely different, because to me, that was a leader going up to his coach saying, I need to be out there, keep me in the game. You need your stars. And in this game, they needed Mahomes, they needed Kelce, and quite frankly, those two stepped up to go along with the defense. I mean, and special teams. I mean, special teams is, in my opinion, the difference of the game.
The 49ers gifted them a touchdown, no matter how you slice it. I couldn't believe, like, your defense has been playing lights out up until that point, and you literally hand the Chiefs a touchdown. The one play later, they score. But even when I saw that final drive, and I think the thing that's got to be discouraging for Niner fans, great performance by Christian McCaffrey in a losing effort. He did everything possible to win this game. And
he really did.
The play calling, too. I got to call out the play calling to a level. You have 2 plays to pick up 4 yards. Make fourth down something to think about.
And, yeah, and to your point, we saw it in the previous series where they go for it on fourth down and they called the perfect play to George Kittle. A quick little out by the tight end, one of your money-making guys, the guy that we talked about earlier today with who was the better tight end this year. I don't know why they didn't go back to a similar play. It didn't make sense. Like, I will put this loss on Kyle Shanahan. And you
have no choice other than to do that. Purdy more than showed that he's more than a game manager today, even in defeat. Jennings had the separation necessary to catch the potential go-ahead, potential winning touchdown of that game. Chris Jones, he's been doing it all year. He did it a week ago. He did it 2 weeks ago. He
did it on those key third downs. I mean, I had never seen him blast through the line like that. And it wasn't once, it wasn't twice, it was multiple times where Chris Jones was disrupting Brock Purdy's motion, everything. And we look at it, if Chris Jones wasn't there, that's a touchdown. They're winning.
And when MVS, gives up the forward progress by trying to make another football move, he gets spun backward, second and very long.
2nd and 14, yeah.
Yes, and they're able to not only, to ultimately get a first down. That was a huge backbreaker as well. And I feel that when the Niners should have stayed back, they overcommitted. And when the Niners should have overcommitted, they stayed back. I feel that I understand that Steve Wilkes is the DC, but Kyle Shanahan more than a couple of times over, pulled rank over him. And at the end of the day, I don't think the results were the best. The Moody extra point definitely hurts, no question about it. But at the end of the day, I wholeheartedly believe that it was the coaching because I watched that game. San Francisco 49ers outplayed the Chiefs for probably about 40-something minutes of that game. So there is literally no one going to tell me that the best team won tonight. The best coach team won tonight.
No, the best coached team won tonight. And I will say the better quarterback made the plays when he had to. Purdy did too. He made a lot of great plays, but going back to that first series, I mean, we saw the Chiefs defense come out, stop them, and then of course the Niners got to continue to drive because of a holding by OJ McDuffie, which I sat there and I said, you know what, if that pressure wasn't there, that Niners are Juwan Jennings is scoring. He beat OJ McDuffie. McDuffie had to hold him.
Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie.
Oh, what did I say? OJ McDuffie. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie. He had to hold him. He was beat. If he doesn't hold him, I mean, you don't know that your defensive line is in the face of Brock Purdy. Your back is to the quarterback. Your back is to the play. So in that moment, he had to hold him. I tip my hat to him because with the assumption that there is no pressure, that's an easy dump pass to Jennings, and he's gone. And Jennings would probably be the Super Bowl MVP, having two touchdown receptions and a passing touchdown.
I will say this: I was surprised because when I saw the MVS play, when I saw the Purdy play to Usek, when I saw McCaffrey just banging and getting extra yards, there were certain junctures in that final bit of that game where I really did believe that the 49ers were indeed going to win it. But, the Chiefs, they are officially a dynasty now.
Yeah.
Back to back, they're in a position to be the first NFL team to three-peat in the Super Bowl era. They're the first team to repeat since the New England Patriots did it against, oddly enough, Andy Reid.
And it was 20 years ago.
It was, yes, indeed. It was 20 years ago. Brett was actually at that Super Bowl. Yes, it was 20 years ago. Long off season, in my opinion, if you are the San Francisco 49ers, because as good of seasons as they have consistently had in the Kyle Shanahan era, and this is involving multiple quarterbacks, the one thing that's undeniable is that I think a point of contention, if you're a Niners fan, is that your final game of the year, whether it was the NFC title game a couple of years ago, whether it is however their seasons have ended, whether the Rams title game, losing to the Eagles last year was a little different because of the unfortunate luck with the Purdy injury. But I feel that you're going into an offseason as a fan base with that same ugly feeling. You guys got out-coached yet again.
Yet again. And, we can look back at when it was Harbaugh versus Harbaugh. I would say Harbaugh outcoached Harbaugh in that Super Bowl. I mean, in the first half, he definitely outcoached.
Well, the thing is, you could have said that before the game started and you'd still be proven right.
Yeah, absolutely. And, approaching this offseason, I think John Lynch and company needs to sit down and ask themselves the question. You're not firing Kyle Shanahan, for one. That's not happening. He's going to remain the head coach of the 49ers. But I think it's in their best interest to look for an OC that is going to take charge and say, no, this is what we're going to do. Because like you said, we saw it in the Super Bowl with a 28-3 lead. We saw it a couple years ago with a 20-10 lead. We saw it this year yet again. It's the same story, different chapter. And at some point, you have to sit there and say, well, clearly it's not the players, because from a defensive standpoint, even with the loss of Dre Greenlaw, they played phenomenal, especially early. I mean, they were on the Chiefs. And then even in the second half, while both teams were getting drives, the Niners were still making plays. Obviously, I mean, and we can even look at going back to the first quarter, the first series. The Niners came out and they were driving. It was an unfortunate fumble by Christian McCaffrey that we could have sat there and said, "Oh, the Chiefs are about to take off with this," but they didn't. It was a 3 and out, and then Niners got the ball right back. There was too much. I mean, this was the game for the Niners to win, and they didn't. They didn't. And you know, of course, me being a Cowboys fan, I'm going to talk crap, but all crap aside, phenomenal season by the San Francisco 49ers. You know, great job. You made it. You came up short. You did. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of hoping for a double overtime because I mean this was a great game, but all in all, just
even that final play was kind of sneaky because I actually believe that the 49ers players were a little laxed, thinking that the Chiefs are going to drive it into the second quarter of overtime.
Yeah,
little backdoor underneath play to McCole Hardman, and I do want to say this: going into the season, I did predict that the San Francisco 49ers would lose the Super Bowl, but it was going to be to the New York Jets. And when I made that prediction, McCole Hardman was a member of the New York Jets.
And the irony of all of that, the irony, you go and make a trade at the deadline for the receiver you lost along with Juju Smith-Schuster, but a guy that was a very important piece of that Chiefs offense over the last few years, you go get him back. And the one play he makes in the Super Bowl is to win the Super Bowl and get your dynasty. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, but I will say this. All things considered, with how well the 49ers were playing, I've got to tip my hat off to Patrick Mahomes. He has now entered the threshold of definitely he is in the GOAT conversation. And to see how composed that young man was, he never lost it. He was like, all right, cool, let's get to work. You know, he got his troops. He said, guys, let's go. I've got you. I won't let you down. And yet again, even that play where, I mean, he did make a very errant throw where it would have been his second interception, just missed. And of course, the one that was leading the drive to tie it and go into overtime. But Mahomes played, in my opinion, a phenomenal game. He didn't really force the ball, with the exception of his first interception. And, I mean, he showed what a true MVP, a true quarterback in the GOAT conversation would do. And it was just crazy to see because Joe Montana was in presence. And like I said,
I thought it was going to go the other way when they showed Montana. And you know, seconds later, Purdy gets out of trouble, makes that play. Purdy has nothing to be ashamed of. I will say this, another turning point, because sometimes you need to be a little lucky too. And when Patrick Mahomes fielded that bad snap and forced the ball into very dangerous coverage, and I'll be honest, that ball should have been picked. That also could have potentially cost the Chiefs the game. And like I said, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but the reality is, on more plays than not, Mahomes was more good than lucky, but on the play that he needed to be lucky, he was. And, you know, that leads into next year. You know, this team overcame a lot of hardships. This is undeniably the toughest season the Chiefs have ever had, and that's including years that they didn't win the Super Bowl. You know, sometimes you have better teams and you don't win it. Sometimes you have worse teams and you do win it.
You win it, yeah. But
this year, you got to put it on Mahomes for getting it done. You got to put it on Coach Andy Reid, defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, who becomes the first coordinator in Super Bowl era to win 4. He's got 3 with these guys. He's got 1 with the New York Football Giants. Really remarkable stuff through and through. And, I mean, we've never seen a team three-peat. But at this point, going into the new year, do we really want to count these guys out?
Absolutely not, because the guy that I thought was going to be an X factor was Rashee Rice. And in the playoffs, I mean, I think the statistic was he has 272 yards receiving in the playoffs. In my opinion, he had a great game. He's going to be a much improved receiver. He will be a true number 1 next year. Kelsey obviously is coming back. Now the question is, how are they able to re-sign Chris Jones?
Well, that's the thing. If you lose Chris Jones, that would be damaging, because if you look at the rest of that roster, both sides of the ball, offense and defense alike, they are a legitimately young team. So yeah. I do believe that if you're somehow able to figure out a way to get the right amount of money to keep Chris Jones happy, there is no reason to believe going into next year that they can't do this. Rashee Rice is going to be another year in the league. Who's to say that this team isn't going to address the receiving room further in this year's draft, or if not via free agency? And I wouldn't be surprised if you have some restructuring going on with some of your big salary guys for the betterment of the team.
Oh, and you know what? I think it's going to happen. And the day I think it will happen will probably be 24, 48, maybe 2 weeks after. But as we know, Dak Prescott, he's got a $60 million cap hit for the Dallas Cowboys next year. He will be re-signed. It's inevitable. It has to happen. He's probably going to get a contract along the lines of $60 million a year. 58.5 to 60 million a year is what I assume he's going to get. The contract obviously will be where they can break away, but I strongly believe that as soon as that contract is signed, Mahomes will sit there and say, all right, give me 61 a year. Give me 61 a year, and where they're going to be able to push it down the line, and then you bring your Chris Jones back. I mean, giving them that 10-year contract allowed them to do things like that. But my question to you, Richie, is as something that we have seen over and over again. We've seen it with Jalen Hurts last year. We saw it with Joe Burrow a couple years ago. We've seen it with Matt Ryan. Is Brock Purdy the next quarterback to make a Super Bowl appearance and not come back? Personally, I don't think so, because I look at the roster what the 49ers have, especially on the defensive side of the ball. A young Brock Purdy still on a rookie deal for the next few years. That's my question to you is, are we going to see this again, another quarterback not be able to bring his team back, or are the Niners going to finally be able to break that streak? Are they going to be able to finally get back to the Super Bowl and get one? I said earlier today I didn't think this year would be the year, but I do see them winning the Super Bowl in 5 years. But that, this is one of those things that a loss like this can really affect your team. It can affect your chemistry in the offseason. It can affect the team's ability to trust their head coach.
The thing is, when you put in that much work and you get so close but have the same result or a similar result to what you've been tasting the last 3-4 years, whatever have you, to your point, it does sometimes become overbearing. And I do want to revisit something you said at the top of the hour. I'm seeing this on a Facebook friend's post here. If that was me, I would have been kicked out of the league. That coming from A.J. Brown. And this is the thing. The difference between A.J. Brown and his coach and the way he would approach his coaches versus the way Travis Kelce did, you already covered that. A.J. Brown, it's laughable because he has been cancerous this year.
He's the reason why. I mean, why did the Titans trade a true number one?
The point I'm making is A.J. Brown could talk all the shit he wants, but that dude that's getting in the face of his coach, they have something in a relationship player coach thing that A.J. Brown don't know nothing about, and that's winning the whole thing.
And going back to A.J. Brown, Sirianni, cancer attracts cancer, and we saw Sirianni last year in the Super Bowl blowing up on someone, Mr. Moorhead, who you've had on the show before.
And we thought it was comical because we're like, well, clearly the receivers are not the problem tonight.
Yeah. It's sad because it's crazy how A.J. Brown is going to sit here and say that your character follows you. We have seen it time and time again with receivers. They're the divas of the NFL. Not all of them, but a guy like A.J. Brown, who, when I was at the draft, the year he was traded, I'm sitting there close to the stage watching players get drafted in Las Vegas. And then to see the Eagles make that trade, it was almost like, well, I guess you can see that happening because he's a cancer, but
I just think it's comical that you're going to try to play Vic and do all this other crap when at the end of the year, you basically took plays off, all kinds of other stuff. In Travis Kelce's case, he was essentially being like, I need to get going. You got to get me going. And, I think that you saw with Rashee Rice and Patrick Mahomes getting intense with each other. There's a difference between good tension amongst teammates trying to motivate each other versus the disrespecting coaches, taking plays off, and being that guy. And like I said, the result is, and the proof is in the pudding. Travis Kelce, Coach Reed have won multiple Super Bowls together, and the only thing A.J. Brown has won is new addresses because his act is starting to get played out.
You're not lying, man. Obviously now the season's over. What a great NFL season. I mean, the season kicked off with a great game between the Chiefs and the Lions, in which the Lions ended up winning at Arrowhead. And the irony to see the Chiefs holding the Lombardi up one more time. And, to go to week one, a 40-0 shellacking of my boys against your Giants, seeing my boys get shellacked by the Niners, a team that you guys gave a lot of trouble at Levi Stadium, and I've got to say, man, like, all in all, what an incredible NFL season. What an incredible NFL season. And, I mean, honestly, I thought Tom Brady was going to be the guy that we won't see this again for a very long time. I said it going into the playoffs. I am never doubting the Chiefs again. I'm never doubting Patrick Mahomes. That's why I took him to beat the Ravens. That's why I took him to beat the Bills. But man, like, what can this guy not do? And what can he not do? What an incredible quarterback. I mean, he will sit there and guide players. And I thought going into this, especially after the Chiefs started off so hot, what was it, 6 or 7-1, one of the two, and then to see them slowly falter where the Raiders were in consideration of possibly win the division going into week 16. It was like, it was just weird. And at one point, you and I were talking about it, how the Chiefs season will be defined because they didn't go after a DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah, we were wrong on that one, because when you have that young man under center or in shotgun, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the show, because what a pleasure it is to watch Patrick Mahomes. Just like after the first 3 Super Bowls Tom Brady won, where I sat there and said, you know what, I'm going to stop rooting against him and I'm just going to enjoy the show. That's where we're at, man. And the season's over and now we're going into draft season. All the mock drafts are happening. Free agency will be in about a month or so. So, I mean, hey, I love it. Congratulations to both teams, the NFC and AFC champions, but NFC champions runner-up doesn't mean anything. The only thing that matters is the Super Bowl champ, and the Chiefs have now done it for the 4th time in franchise history, 3rd time in the last 5 years. I mean, incredible.
I'm going to share Mr. Nast's comments here, as well as something I just typed up for the viewing audience that I'll share on our main screen. Some of my favorite moments this year: Flacco coming back, seeing the Packers win a playoff game post AR-12, who's now AR-8, seeing Lamar Jackson elevate his game, seeing the Lions finally enter the elite convo, seeing Tommy DeVito have the best celebration.
And, and to piggyback off of that, I will add, even seeing Aaron Rodgers running out of that tunnel, holding the American flag on 9/11 to get Monday Night Football to kick off the season. That was one of my favorite moments. Obviously,
I'm not going to lie, it was cool. It's unfortunate, just like, it's like anything else. Whenever you get a big name, he carries the same weight as a Brady in terms of greatness, or any huge quarterback that changes addresses. Take it back before Brady, a Brett Favre. And, HBO was right with them during all the training camp on Hard Knocks. So, like I said earlier today, they brought the Jets into America's living room, so to speak. And it was unfortunate to see how that played out. Got a funny story for you, Zach. A couple of days ago, our guy, Richard Dorney, linked up with Garrett Wilson, former NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, as well as former great Bart Scott. And they legitimately went in on Dorney as if he was Brian Dable.
I believe it.
I just thought it was pretty damn cool because, I guess ultimately they were like, there's some similarities. He's a little fluffy. But
and he's bald.
Yeah, I mean, they do look They do look alike. Dorney had me in tears when he told me that. And, shouts out to Bart Scott and Garrett Wilson. No, I'm not a Jets fan. I like to break balls frequently against the New York Jets. But Rich said that they were true gentlemen and really fun guys to share some chats with. So that I'm glad that he got to have that experience. Just thinking about a few more things before we get on out of here. National Tight End Day is something that stood out this year, where we saw some of the biggest performances from some of the marquee names that play the tight end position. It was a year to forget for my New York Football Giants. But I will say this, the Tommy DeVito game, Monday Night Football, beating the Green Bay Packers, which also snapped the Packers back into place because they won on quite the run after losing to the New York Giants. But seeing the long shot DeVito, who I don't necessarily think is starting material, but it was still good and still a feel-good situation to see that kind of story. Whenever the playoffs start, you always have a couple of what-ifs. The New Orleans Saints were playing much better football down the stretch than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles. Nobody, about a month before the playoffs started, I think necessarily had Philly and Dallas both having first-round exits. I think that opened up the door for a team like a Tampa Bay Buccaneers because it's not every season in the NFL where you say goodbye to a team in the playoffs that just suffered their 9th loss. That's not very rare. And it's going to happen more often with the 17-game slate. I think, like anything else, you track it back to the Big Dom game in the Eagles case because they were the story for a good chunk of before the new year happened, where they were starting off great, continuing their success. I think a lot of people felt that they were a shoo-in one way or the other to make the Super Bowl. I know some people on our panel felt that they did have a lot of good fortune.
I thought that they had a lot of good fortune. They were looking at it between the Cowboys and Niners, both teams had Dallas, I believe it was 9 games where they won by 20 or more points. The Niners had 7, I think it was. The Eagles didn't have 1. They had so many things that had to go their way. That's why when they were 10-1, I was like, I'm not sold on them. I'm not sold. I
think it was a point of emphasis here on the show because I think the biggest thing that we all saw as fans is that, I said it just like the Super Bowl. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But there were certain instances where we did feel that secondary was going to hurt them at one point or another. Jalen Hurts didn't look as invincible anymore when he had to make more plays with his arm. And, guys are getting older. We saw the tush push stop twice in a playoff game. We hadn't seen it stopped in 2 years. We've seen a lot of things, a lot of feel-good moments around the NFL. You have a guy like a Jared Goff, reasserting himself. You have a team like the Los Angeles Rams, Kyron Williams out of Notre Dame entering the scene. They were a feel-good story. Puka Nacua, another feel-good story for the new season. A lot of unsung guys. The Joe Flacco story was very awesome. But we've seen it around the league with guys, having some feel-good moments, even in the Meadowlands. Seeing a guy like Tyrod Taylor become the first African-American quarterback to ever win a game for the New York Giants at the quarterback position. That was a cool little tidbit. Seeing a guy like Baker Mayfield reclaim his career, seeing DeMar Hamlin come back to professional football,
and not
seeing a guy like it just slipped my mind. Joe Burrow's backup. His name literally just left my mind.
Oh gosh, it just left my mind too. Hey, Idris, where you at?
Yeah, that's Idris's boy. But point to be made is that we saw a lot of quarterbacks drop this year and a lot of guys step up.
Yeah, and that's, I think, to Baker Mayfield's point, he being the guy to knock out the Eagles, that was one of the best things to see. But no, I think one thing we definitely did learn this year, especially moving forward, as the NFL is probably going to go to
Jake Browning.
Jake Browning.
Yeah, but, I almost said Browning Nagel. I had like one of the weird flashbacks to the Jets.
Hey, Walnut, Brownies, Brownie Nagel, whatever. But no, I think one thing we did learn is, and especially with this upcoming draft, as I'm sure we will cover plenty of in the coming weeks, coming months, it is important to have a backup, and not only that, but to have two backup quarterbacks in the league now. And we saw it many times. I mean, my team was fortunate enough to not be one of those teams to lose their quarterback. The Chiefs, another team, they didn't lose their quarterback. But
there's another thing here. There's another thing here. We saw two guys, legendary coaches, both take a step away. Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll. We also saw Mr. Irrelevant playing a Super Bowl, and this opens another question. Super Bowl losers in their first attempt. It is a bit of a streak where they have not been able to come back.
And that's what I was asking you. Will he be the next one? I have to say that I think he comes back.
I actually believe that if there was ever a guy to bank on that could and should be back, but I will say this. I also think that as a group, we felt rather good a couple of years ago when Joe Burrow lost the Super Bowl. But, taking a step back and realizing, wait a minute, they overachieved. We know how good Burrow could be, but wait a minute. Are the Bengals going to have that sustained success? And I guess the answer a couple of years later is what seemed like, oh, yeah, they're going to be – no, wait a minute. I don't know about that now.
Eric, did I call that or what? Did I say the Bengals were going to be the fourth place loser before the season started? No, there's a lot of questions. I will throw one more play at you. My favorite play of the year, just so happened to be the play that won the award for play of the year, was the Dak Prescott 96-yard touchdown to CeeDee Lamb. Incredible to see. It should have been a sack. It should have been, but somehow he gets out of it. He doesn't get hit and just chucks it down the field. But hey, Richie, let me ask you this. I know we just got done with the Super Bowl. Who, in your opinion, we don't have the draft yet. We haven't had free agency. Who are your top 5 teams going into next year?
Top 5 teams going into next year. The 2 teams that played this evening, goes without saying. I might get laughed at for saying this because people might think that I'm putting a little too much into them, but it's just a vision that I have for them for next year. I think the Green Bay Packers are going to take a massive step next year. And after seeing some of the sample size of what they did in the playoffs, I am a Jordan Love believer. I have them as a top 5 football team. So let's see. That's the Chiefs. That's the 49ers. That's the Packers. I don't share the same sentiments for the Lions until they fix their defense. So they're just missing my top 5. I have to put the Baltimore Ravens as a top 5 football team because at the end of the day, they got beat by the great Andy Reid and the great Patrick Mahomes. That's not an indictment on what they're doing over there in Baltimore. I think Lamar deserves the MVP this year. I can't put that loss on him when he threw the 50-yard bomb, when his receiver did fumble the ball in the end zone. I can't put that one on Lamar, and I won't.
No, and Landon, my son, had a great point. If Zay Flowers doesn't fumble that ball, it's very possible that we're talking about an overtime game where the Ravens pull that game off. Because if he scores, it's 17-17. A great defensive
The Buffalo Bills, sorry to interrupt you, the Buffalo Bills would fill out my 5th team, and not because I have the greatest belief in their roster. It's because I am getting kind of thoroughly annoyed with Josh Allen getting that bum rap, because when I think about how coaching matters in this league and how we talked about how Bill Belichick could be the guy that can fix that defense, I wholeheartely believe that the Buffalo Bills have the quarterback capable to get it done. But, I think Diggs might honestly be past his best. They might want to consider making a move in the offseason. Right behind these
that's
top
one
5.
that I'm going to watch. Sorry to interrupt, but in reference to Diggs, that's actually someone I'm going to be watching closely, because I've been saying that I think now more than ever will be the time where Dallas pulls the trigger, where you throw a second, a fourth, and a guy like a Michael Gallup, where you give him a receiver to get him in there, to get the Diggs brothers finally together. Whoever your buddy is right now, absolutely, dude. If you go back and watch our show,
he has a pretty good podcast himself. He's going to be joining us in the near future.
Yeah, and we do mock drafts, man, and would love to have you. We do have a lot of fun, man. Especially, as you know, Giants fan, Cowboys fan, we will be unbiased about it all at the end of the day. And so, absolutely, man. I'm a huge college football guy. Richie loves college. Idris is a huge college football guy. So, absolutely, man. Love to have you. Love to meet you finally. But it's yeah, I gotta agree with you on many levels because I look at the Bills. I look at it as next year. This is it for Sean McDermott. This is it for him. I look at the Cowboys as a team. I think that is going to be right back in there. This is it for Dak. This is it for McCarthy. Niners will be right back there. I think the Rams are going to be a team we need to watch out for next year. They're a younger team, and Stafford's going to be back. He's going to be a year older, but Puka Nacua is going to be a year older too. Cooper Kupp is now going to be fresh. So there's things like that, and then
I believe we
I
said it.
I can't
off
put it on
air.
Baltimore. I think it's going to be Cleveland that is going to be a top 5 team because we know they have the defense already. And I got to say, Deshaun Watson, I mean, the guy missed 780 something days before he came back. And
That's
we
my
finally saw
issue.
him.
I gotta believe that Deshaun Watson's gonna be okay. And that is where I might disagree with you because we saw the great story that was Joe Flacco this year. We also know and are smart enough to know that at his age he's not coming back. But Watson, if he doesn't make the steps to look a lot more like the 2020 version in Houston, the Cleveland Browns have a problem because they put a lot of stock into him. That's kind of where I'm at with that.
No, I absolutely agree with you on all that. But no, that's the thing. I'm going to keep an eye on the Browns, and not to mention, you look at all the adversity the Browns team had to overcome with guys like going out and getting a Joe Flacco.
I mean, you lost Nick Chubb,
and that's what I was going to go with. And you lost Nick Chubb. Amari Cooper is still a true number one. To this day, I'm still upset about the trade, even though I understood why the trade happened. I'm still upset about it. I think the Browns are going to be here next year. Steelers, I think, will be a better improved team. But as far as top 5, yeah, I got to say the Niners will be there. I think the Browns will be there. I think the Rams are the team to watch out for. I think the Cowboys will be there. The Bills, yeah, they've got to be there because this is Sean McDermott's last chance, in my opinion. Same with Mike McCarthy. And I've got to say, the other team that I'm going to watch out for closely, I can't believe I'm going to say this. No, I'm not going to. Yeah, I'm going to say it. Not a top 5 team, but a surprise team for 2024-25, the Las Vegas Raiders. You go out, you finally keep the guy that motivated your team. You go draft the quarterback or you get someone in free agency, unless if you can get Jimmy Garoppolo to stay healthy for a season. They're a team I'm going to be really watching closely in the offseason, see what they do, see who they bring in, things like that. And I fully expect the Eagles take another step back. They're going to get younger, which means we know Jason Kelsey is already getting interviewed for Fox, for ESPN, for many television to do pregame analysis or to be doing game day analysis as we've seen many players do. Eagles, but your Giants, can you go out? If you're going to trust Daniel Jones, are you going to go into the draft and are you going to get a left tackle or are you going to get a Malik Neighbors? Are you going to get a Marvin Harrison if he falls to you? Are you going to get the true number one? Giants is a team I'm going to be paying very closely attention to as well. Man, I love it. Oh, man, what a great year. What a great year. Once again, as I said to you guys, yes, I was celebrating. I wasn't celebrating the Chiefs winning. I was celebrating the Niners losing. But, it's just honestly, man, in the NFL, the one sport that was only played 16 games, 14 games, 10 games, now 17 games. It's the only game that literally brings fans together once a week. Once a week. You only get 17 opportunities to watch your team, unless if you're one of the lucky ones that gets another one in the playoffs. Man, I love it.
This is what I've got. Steelers need a quarterback. Bills and Cowboys must win or else meaning new coaches. Brian Daboll's year 3 is everything for his future. Stroud, Love, Purdy are all here to stay.
Oh yeah, Houston. Thank you. Houston is the other one I think will be a top 5 team. I think Houston is going to own the South for a while.
They could, and I also think that it's a big prove-it year next year for guys like you already mentioned, Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence, those kind of players. Kirk Cousins is going to be an interesting name to keep an eye on in this NFL offseason as well, because he can help a team win right now, and there will be teams that would be more than happy to add a Kirk Cousins.
That, in my opinion, once again, unbiased opinion, if there's one team, one coach, one newly hired head coach that should go out and get Kirk Cousins, it is the Washington Commanders. I
don't see how it could be a horrible move.
No, it's not. I mean, he outplayed RG3. And then that was partially due to the fact that a certain father of somebody pretty much ruined him. But when I look at that Washington team, I mean, they've got a defense. They traded 2 guys away that I don't want to call cornerstone pieces, Chase Young and Sweat. I mean, they just, it was like, all right, you guys really haven't done enough to justify giving you that $100 million contract. So I get why they did it, but they still have a good young defense. They have the weapons on offense. They just need the guy under center. I was high on Sam Howell, which, yes, he had, statistically speaking, a lot of yards passing.
He led the NFL in passing yards around the midway point. But the thing is, as bad as my team's offensive line is, the Commanders, were even worse. It's going to be interesting to see just if some of these teams that had the good second halves are going to be able to sustain, if teams that had heartbreakers at the end of the year are going to be able to bounce back. The Lions, guys like that, what we saw tonight with the 49ers. Harbaugh is in Los Angeles now. How is it going to go with the progression of Justin Herbert? I actually think it's going to be great. I think Trevor Lawrence will be taking a step back. I think Daniel Jones is going to be in trouble. Step back, final steps back. Even if he plays well, I believe that Daniel Jones' days are numbered because it just doesn't make sense moving forward. Saquon Barkley will be an interesting name to keep an eye on if he does.
Will he be a Cowboy?
I mean, it's not out of the question. At the end of the day, Saquon Barkley wants to get paid. Derrick Henry, another big name running back to definitely keep an eye on. I was a little disappointed. Julio Jones came back. I thought he was going to offer a little more in the NFL. It looks like it is truly over for Julio.
No, and I thought it was truly over for him, as we saw him the last couple of years, where he just wasn't.
I kind of thought that being around that kind of talent was going to make maybe just him kind of stick around just a little longer, but Sean McDermott and Mike McCarthy are going to be the 2 names that I believe will be under the most scrutiny if the Bills and Cowboys do not make it to round 3 at minimum next year. I'm going to call it way in advance. Next season, MVP of the regular season. I'm just going to hang this out and just tell you that it's real, and I think it could happen. Jordan Love, Green Bay Packers, next year's NFL MVP.
I'm going to go with the guy that just got Super Bowl MVP for the 3rd time. He's going to have a much better offense next year. I'm sure even though Rashid Rice has really grown into himself, Kelsey will be back. They're going to go get another receiver. I fully believe that Mahomes and his ability that we have seen now for 6 straight years, even actually 7, if you go back to that rookie season where he started week 17 against the Broncos, where you looked at him like, oh, man.
Russell Wilson, another name that, see where his football journey – it's possible. See where his football journey continues. I'll tell you what. I said it in my comments. These guys most definitely need a quarterback upgrade as well. Mike Tomlin, he'll figure out the contract. He ain't going nowhere.
Oh, here you go. No, he figured it out.
Kevin Stefanski, he already won Coach of the Year for a second time. But Deshaun Watson has to play better Joe Burrow coming back. We'll see what he's bringing. Got the T. Higgins, Chase situation.
Bring Higgins back. Let Jamar go.
Yeah, it's a distinct possibility. And, there's going to be plenty of shows to talk about it. But with the end of football, it means the NBA All-Star Game is literally right around the corner, which means the NBA second half is around the corner. And it also means that Major League Baseball is getting closer and closer.
Ooh, you know it. And I get to say it up until October, late October, early November, if it gets there. My Rangers are still the World Series champs, and everyone is chasing them. The Yankees. We saw what the Dodgers did in astronomical contract to get to a Shohei Ohtani and then go out and get everyone else they did. Your Yankees making the trade for a Juan Soto, bring him along. I mean, I love it. But hey, man, before we get out of here, I just want to say, to everyone watching, I love this guy right here. What an incredible guy. He's had this show going. I stepped away for a little while. I'm back. I just want to say thanks, Richie. I love you, bud. I mean, everything that you do, all the hard work you put in. I mean, me personally, as a guy that reached out to you time and time again, and we finally made it happen last year for me to come on, and it's been a lot of fun, man. And I'm really looking forward to the off season. I'm looking forward to what we do, talking about free agency and our free agency predictions, our draft, our mock draft, our preseason previews, and talking baseball. And man, I mean, like you said, all NBA All-Star next week. Can't wait. I will be at the MLB All-Star game this year because it is in Arlington. My son and I will be at opening night, Rangers against the Cubs on March 28th. I already got our tickets, so I'm excited about that. We'll probably cry again. No big deal. But yeah, man, it's just, I gotta say, man, Richie, I love you, dude, and I'm just happy that we get to talk sports time and time again. As the day we met, the first thing that we started talking about was sports, and here we are, almost 20 years later, still talking sports. I'm out here enjoying my cigar, enjoying my bourbon. And, everyone now, all 32 NFL teams are 0-0.
Yeah, man. The new league year will be starting soon enough. Shout out Ryan Shedd. He's been a great addition to the show. Goes without saying, Idris Salam always bringing it. Our boy Brett Bandick always here. Got some new friends, Mr. Nast. Shout out the Mask, Quentin Moore. Always down to contribute. My buddy Zach. It's been a cool year. Daniel Nunez, Keith Woolridge, guys who have hung with us here on the show. It's been
and to Beast of the East.
Yeah, Beast of the East has been incredible. Absolutely. They've been incredible supporters for the show. Shout out Sylvia Sneed.
Ladarius Sneed's
yeah. Her cousin wins another ring. And he played a hell of a game tonight too. Shouts out to
gotta send out shout out to Lance Moorhead, man, coming on the show. Send a shout out to William Floyd coming on the show. I mean, I think for you, Richie, I think this was a great year. I personally think this was a great year. Hey, the sky's the limit, bud. The sky is the limit.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, man. Aaron Moorhead, William Floyd, NFL veterans who both.
Sorry.
No, you're fine, dude. It's late. Everybody's having a good time today. But we appreciate those guys coming through, sharing their football journeys with us. William Floyd, super busy guy. I know he was rooting for the Niners tonight, but also has his Florida State radio show. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Same goes for Aaron Moorhead. I wanted to make sure that we were able to give him a professional interview. I didn't want him thinking that just because he happened to coach for the Eagles that he was going to come into some ignorance. I wanted just the absolute, put him in a position to tell his story the best way possible and to kind of give you guys, the viewers, a real understanding of what a professional coach and what that very big sacrifice entails. And I think Aaron did a great job of illustrating that to all of you, the viewers. And, it's been a great time bringing you this show for the better part of a year. It's wild because it just doesn't seem like opening day was that long ago, but here we are, another season in the books, and another dynasty for another decade as well.
And one last thing, as we know, there was a wide receiver that shot himself. He was a New York Giant, Plaxico Burress. Shout out to his son signing with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. to, like when I saw that, I was like, hey, incredible, incredible. So if there's one thing I got to say, obviously, I love Notre Dame. I love the Longhorns. Grew up in a split family. My Longhorns will be back. They will be there next year, but Notre Dame is something I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to a 12-team playoff next year, bud. I am looking forward to that, especially.
Now no more controversy. I want to hit on Plax for a second. It goes without saying that for me personally, when we approach Super Bowl weekend, especially if my team is not in it, I like to revisit some of our nostalgia days, whether it be the victories over the Patriots, whether it be the victory over the Bills, whether it be the beginnings of the Parcells era, just kind of revisiting some of our history. And anyway, Plaxico Burress, really cool because he went through a lot of hell for one terrible decision. But what I love about Plaxico is that he owned it. He is accountable for a legitimate guilt that he feels for costing the '08 Giants a chance at a repeat, which is very rare, as you see. First time it happened in 20 years here. And, just moving on with his life and being able to tell the story and to say, hey, I went from the very, very top to the very, very bottom. But thankfully, he still has his family. He has a son that I'm sure he is very proud of. And, life goes on and we live and we learn. And I think if there's anything to take from that, hopefully you do. And I think Plaxico Burress, I give him credit because it's not easy to pick yourself off the mat after basically for the whole world to see you at your lowest. But I think Plaxico did more than pick himself up. And as I love to say, once a giant, always a giant. And you can't write the history of that picture behind me without the play that happened a couple after with Plaxico Burress making that catch.
Wide open.
Yeah. Plax, hey man, we were angry at you when you made a bad boo-boo. We were more past the football stuff. We were more concerned about your well-being and your family's well-being. But you're always a giant. We love you, and just props to you for just being a real man. It takes a real man to be able to talk about it and to be able to own it. And I think Plax has more than done that. And no one should be measured off of their worst mistake.
And I'm going to send one more shout out. It's not to a specific person, but it's to your followers, everyone that tunes in, everyone that has liked, subscribed, shared as they continue to build your brand. Thank you to everyone else that takes the time to listen to you, listen to Idris, listen to Brett, listen to everyone else that has taken their time out of their day to give their valuable input into whatever the topic was we were covering at that specific time. Like I said, I'm more than grateful to be here, sitting here right now at the end of this Super Bowl, a phenomenal Super Bowl. And once again, while I am a hater, again, congratulations to the 49ers.
Absolutely.
You had a great season.
When you make it this far, there are no losers. Giannis would tell you that in his own way.
He's right, though.
Craziness, dude. So, my very first time ever attempting to do any of this podcast stuff in my little old apartment before I bought my house, me, Jordan, Elliott, didn't know what the hell we were doing, so to speak, but we were definitely jumping into the fire. And unfortunately, it was right after we lost Kobe Bryant. We talked about A.J. Hinch, Bill Belichick, Pete Rose, and the assimilations between all of them. We also spoke about a Super Bowl that we were getting ready for that very day 4 years ago. It was the Chiefs and the 49ers 4 years later. I think it's safe to say that, you always want to do better and you always want to continue to expand, but you never forget where you came from.
Never
so
forget.
Shouts out to Jordan Patrick, as well as my man, Elliot Evans. I think, I'm doing our roots proud and just continuing to grow the product. And, we don't do this for any other reason than the fact that we genuinely love it. And
we love sports. I mean, there's only very few. I mean, when I say very few, it's not even a handful of people. Maybe a little more than a handful.
It's kind of wild because even sometimes it's like when you just get into it and you go about your everyday life, but this is always part of it. I think sometimes you actually forget how much work has been done over the past few years. And I look at that catalog and I'm like, geez, dude, it's hard for me to believe that I've really put out that much content. And it's just the beginning. But
Hey, but I got to say one last thing.
if you were here for 3 minutes or for 2 years, I just want to say thank you for everyone who's ever contributed here. We got 20 seconds. Go ahead, Zach. Final thought.
Brett, I told you the Patriots only had 3 or 4 wins in them this year. You lost it that we had to re-record it, but I told you. Anyways.